when I hit menopause, the mental fatigue, the brain fog, the physical fatigue, things like that really kept me unmotivated. Are you doing all the things? Eating trim healthy, working out, praying for a breakthrough, but the belly fat still won't budge? Do you feel like your hormones are working against you and you're stuck in a body that doesn't feel like yourself anymore? Friend, I see you and you are not alone. I'm Kris, trim healthy coach, personal trainer, midlife mama, and lover of Jesus. I believe your body is good, your health matters to God, and you don't have to hustle harder to feel whole. Inside this podcast, I'll help you lose weight with grace, steward your body through perimenopause and menopause, and rebuild energy and confidence with practical trim healthy strategies that honor your hormones and your faith. Before we dive in today, I just want to say, I see you. I remember what it felt like to do all the things, cutting carbs, skipping snacks, pushing harder at the gym, only to see zero progress and feel totally defeated. That's why I created the Midlife Fat Loss Formula, a 6-month group coaching experience that's all about working with your midlife hormones instead of against them. If you've been feeling stuck, this might be the exact shift you need. You can check it out at bit.ly/join fat loss formula. Again, it's bit.ly/join fat loss formula. I'd love to walk alongside you in this season. Now, let's get into it. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Honeycast. Today, I am talking about something that I think a lot of you, especially if you're in menopause, I think you're going to relate, and you might even say that you live there now and again. And no, I'm not talking about a place that you're living. I'm talking about a feeling. I'm talking about something that drives us to do the things that we know we need to do. And it's called motivation. When I talk to a lot of ladies, whether it's discovery calls or coaching calls, or even in my group coaching and emails, and people are replying to my emails, one of the biggest things that I see is a lack of motivation. And they just say things like, my mojo is gone. I just don't feel like doing this. I'm tired. I don't care. I don't like exercising. I'm not motivated to meal prep. I just don't have the motivation. I just don't have the time. And one of the things I can really relate to that, because one of the things that changed for me in my perimenopause, but especially menopause, perimenopause, I could still kind of push through and I could still drum up some motivation. And I do believe there are ways that we can think that help create motivation. And I think that's very helpful. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, I want to talk about just the feeling of unmotivated and how to get to motivation. And in perimenopause, I could kind of push through and even gather up some motivation and go do what I needed to do. But when I hit menopause, the mental fatigue, the brain fog, the physical fatigue, things like that really kept me unmotivated. And I would say I'm probably a pretty highly motivated person in the realm, especially of fitness and health, just because, of course, this is what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years. I'm passionate about it. I love it. But it just kind of fell off a cliff. My motivation did. But at that point in time, I knew enough so that I could just do it anyway. I could just say, it doesn't matter if I have motivation. I'm going to do it anyway. And of course, there were times when I really didn't press through and I really didn't do it anyway. And those were some times when I was in a low energy state. I had COVID and that lasted for a couple of months. I had some other times when I had some physical things going on, and then the hormones that are walking out the door played a big factor in that. And so I wasn't always on my A game. And during those times, I honestly just did the best I could. And I didn't wait for motivation. I decided, what are the non-negotiable things that I need to do to keep myself healthy right now? It wasn't even about getting to a certain number on the scale. It wasn't about even being in greatest health ever. It was just, okay, what is the next thing I need to do? And I needed to nourish my body. So that became a vision for me to drop into when I was not feeling motivated. And like I said, not doing it perfectly, because sometimes I was just like, I don't care. I'm not doing this. And I didn't. And so today I want to talk a little bit about what's going on, why that's going on, and what we can do about it. First, I want to say hormones, hormones, hormones. I feel like I'm always blaming hormones, but I will say they are 90% plus the issue, not necessarily the problem, but causing the issues that we've got going on. So when we hit perimenopause and then menopause, our estrogen and progesterone and testosterone start to, I'll say they go into a transition, and sometimes they're wacky. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, and eventually they are down. Eventually they are tanked. And that's really when you're going to see a lot of the very low energy state, low motivation, when your hormones are gone. And I experienced that. And I talked to a lot of women who experienced that. And I was trying all kinds of other things to boost my energy. Gosh, I've tried so many different supplements and teas, and there were things that definitely helped, but nothing could do anything really until I got on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And I will say this for some of you that are like, well, I can't do that, and I don't want to stay in this low energy state or unmotivated state. Things do, about 4 years after menopause, things do level out somewhat. And I have read and I have heard that you do get a little bit of your mojo back. Things kind of, I will say, level out and stabilize. But in that, gosh, who wants to wait 4 years, right? So those hormonal changes cause mood changes. They cause declining energy levels and declining dopamine. And so when we don't have those hormones, we're going to lose that mojo. We're going to lose some of that motivation that was just naturally there. Some other things that really contribute are poor sleep. This has been a biggie for me. And you guys have heard me talk about this. I'm still working on this. And I was sleeping better when I got on KIAORA. I've changed my hormonal protocol with them. And now I'm back to not sleeping. And I feel it so much. Night sweats, insomnia, your mind racing at 3 a.m. Who else? These kind of things really affect next day. They affect your cortisol levels, and they affect your mood, and they affect your motivation and your energy levels. The other thing, blood sugar crashes. When our blood sugar is not stable, really causes that low energy, lack of motivation. And then sometimes it's overwhelm or decision fatigue. There's so many decisions. There's so many things we need to be working on right now. And it can feel like it's a job for us. And so all of that can play into the feeling of not feeling motivated. And that is not to mention any life transitions, such as maybe you're caregiving your parents or your grandkids, maybe a career, maybe your empty nest, maybe you have an illness going on or a loved one that does. All of these where we were much more resilient with all those hormones. Without those, we really can lack that motivation and we become easily overwhelmed. And so one of the things that I like to talk about here is we can really help this by reframing. Are you ever going to get your mojo back? Maybe, maybe a little bit here, maybe a little bit there. And I will say this, when most of us have steadily declining testosterone levels, that's one thing that's pretty steady and declining. That is your get stuff done hormone. That is your motivation hormone. And testosterone can be very, very helpful with motivation, not to mention libido and drive. And so if you have not gotten your hormones checked, you may want to get them checked. You may want to consider using some testosterone, talking to your doctor about that, because it really makes a huge difference. But the other thing I want to say is how you're thinking about it. If you constantly are rehearsing how unmotivated you feel and how tired you are and how you don't want to do this and you don't want to do that and you don't have time, all of that will lead you to staying in that state of feeling unmotivated and not acting on it at all, and actually not being able to create the results that you want to. So we really want to work on making peace with losing your mojo or feeling unmotivated. And what does that mean? That doesn't mean that I accept it and I get rolled over by it. That's not what I mean when I say making peace. What I mean is accepting and normalizing what is going on. So I'm seeing that happening. I'm acknowledging it. And there's nothing wrong. Nothing has gone wrong here. I love that thought. That comes from my life coach. And it really does help you in the moment where your brain is freaking out or your brain is telling you something is so wrong. And then you feel all the anxiety and then you're spinning and then you either don't do what you need to do or you procrastinate or whatever decisions you make when you're in that state of anxiety. Everybody's a little different with that. Then you're not showing up for yourself. You're not able to stay on your plan. You're not able to take care of your midlife body because you're spinning and all this anxiety. So we want to accept it. Yeah, this is a state for now. And guess what? Our states of being always change. That's hopeful. I want to talk to the woman who's wondering if it's just too late. If you've been thinking, well, I guess this is just how it's going to be from now on, maybe I'll never feel strong or lean again. I want to speak directly to you. It is not too late, my friend. Your body is not broken. You just need a plan that works with your hormones, your metabolism, and your real life. That's why I built the Midlife Fat Loss Formula. It is my 6-month group coaching program where we walk step by step through the exact things your body needs to shift back in to fat burning mode. You'll learn how to eat in a way that fuels you, how to move in a way that actually works, and how to create sustainable habits that last beyond the 6 months. It's not about perfection. It's about progress that sticks. Women like Michelle and Anita are seeing major shifts, not just on the scale, but in their labs, in their confidence, and even their strength. So if you've been needing that nudge to take the next step, this is it. Come on over to bit.ly/join fat loss formula. That's bit.ly/join fat loss formula. I would love to support you inside. Another thought, nothing has gone wrong here. That really takes the edge off of it for me so I can figure out, okay, what do I need to do? So one aspect, a way to normalize it is to realize it's not that you're, like I said, going to let it roll over you. It's not that you don't care. It's just that, okay, my body is in a transition. My brain is in a transition. Everything is a little different right now. And that's normal. But that doesn't mean that it's going to stay normal. That doesn't mean that I have to just lay down and accept it. That means, okay, now what? Yeah, this is what's going on. I get curious. I understand, wow, that's why I'm so tired. And then if you're like me and you have some underlying things going on that you haven't been able to figure out what those are, because that's been going on with me for a lot of years now. It seems like it kind of ebbs and flows. But, I had mold for a while. I had mold, not poisoning, but mold that was affecting my health. Could be some heavy metals. It could be some Lyme's disease. It could be long haul COVID. It could be MS. It could be things that your body is already dealing with. And that further throws those hormones out of whack, which can lead to this mood, this feeling of, I just don't want to do any of this. And so we're going to normalize it. And then we're going to go, nothing has gone wrong here. And then we are going to decide, what am I in control of right now? And what is one or two things that I can do about this? So that will lead you into a place of discovery. You don't have to do all the things at one time. Maybe that will lead you to starting to look at your nutrition, looking at your meals each day, and maybe cutting out some foods that drag you down, that mess up your blood sugar. Maybe you're looking at that first. Maybe it's you back off on exercise. Maybe you're doing a lot of exercise and maybe you just go, okay, I'm going to walk every day and I'm going to strength train for this season once or twice a week for 20 minutes. Maybe you back off on some things that you have to have a lot of energy for. And of course, there's probably going to be some things that you can't back off. Maybe you can't not caretake, but that's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that you can control. What about your sleep? Maybe you really start focusing on your sleep routine and supporting your sleep. And you work on that so that you get that nighttime recovery and rest. Maybe you decide to look into bioidentical hormone replacement therapy like I did. Maybe you talk to a doctor that's in the know, that is really going to listen to you. Maybe it's you get some self-care practices. So you see what I mean? We're taking one or two things, and we don't have to have necessarily the motivation to do it. We're just going to go, okay, in this season, I don't have to do everything, but this is the one or two things that I'm going to work on right now. And maybe you need help with that. Maybe you need some coaching. Maybe you need some outside assistance. This is a good time to get that assistance. I will tell you, that's when I started with a life coach, when I could not get my stuff together. I could not get it all together. I could not manage my emotions, my hormones, my food, my everything, my kids, my homeschooling, my relationships, all of it. And I got some assistance. And you know what? I learned some tools that greatly helped me and actually help me today in helping other women. So creating these little micro wins for yourself can actually stir up motivation. Another thought is, I don't have to be motivated, but I can take the next step. I just acknowledge, Kris, you don't have to be motivated, but I can do the next thing. I can totally do that. I can't do 10 things, but I can do one thing. Okay, the next thing is, like I said, regulating your rhythm. You're regulating your sleep and your self-care and your nervous system. Our nervous system gets jumped up, basically stimulated when we hit our menopausal years, when we have that hormonal transition, and we also might have some life stressors and some higher cortisol levels. Our nervous system gets really turned on. And so what we want to do is do some things to downregulate that nervous system to put us in that parasympathetic nervous system, such as these things are so simple, and don't discount them. If you have not tried them, don't discount them. When you start to feel overwhelmed or unmotivated, take 5 minutes and do some deep breathing, some box breathing, or just deep breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, a couple sets of 10. Maybe you lay on the ground and you put your feet up in the air. That gets the blood running to your heart and to your head and can help shift that nervous system. Maybe you stop and you just journal for a few minutes, or you pray, or maybe you just lay down and you put on an Abide app and listen to a meditation. Maybe you go for a short walk, but you get back into the rhythm of your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down and allows you to a little bit more peacefully take that next step and not feel so unmotivated or overwhelmed. The other thing is, we really want to make sure that you're using food as medicine, that you're getting your B vitamins, that you're getting your magnesium-rich foods, you're fueling well so that you feel better. Like I said earlier, maybe you start focusing on getting more veggies and getting more fruits, or maybe you're not getting enough protein and you give yourself more protein. So we really want to give your body the raw materials that it needs to be able to go into a state of action. And then lastly, really renewing your mind on a daily basis and reminding yourself, this too shall pass. I'm not always going to feel this way. And when we don't stew in that, when we don't attach to those thoughts and we decide to go to a higher thought, a more helpful thought, you actually feel better and create some motivation. Now, I also like to give myself some thoughts to help me create motivation. Now, I can't go from I'm completely unmotivated and I don't want to do this all the way to I'm all in. That is a very big jump. What I like to do is just take baby steps, which would look something like, I can totally do this. Everything is figure outable, even if I'm not feeling super motivated. What am I going to feel like when I do this thing for myself? What is my future self going to feel like? I kind of tap into, I'm going to thank me. Sometimes I tap into my vision. I just am like, who cares about motivation? What is my vision? And my vision for myself is to support myself and show up for myself the best that I can so I can be my highest version of me. Holy Spirit filled Christina, who is here on this earth, called to do a great work just like you guys are. And I can't do it without my health, and I can't do it without showing up. And so I tap in to the divine, to the grace that's there for me. And I call on that, and I, by faith, grab a hold of that and walk in that. Because apart from God, we can do nothing. So you can try to stir yourself up all day long. And I do. I think that's important. But we also want to partner with the Holy Spirit. And we want to really take that time to maybe get in the Word and maybe start declaring, I'm the girl that is motivated enough. Maybe I don't have to have all the motivation in the world. Maybe I can have 5% motivation and still go do it, whatever I need to do. So hopefully you'll take some of these thoughts, some of these ideas, and you'll put them into practice. But there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, and this is not going to last, but there is something that's happening in your body on a chemical level, as well as a physical level in your brain, in your body, with your hormones, and probably some outside factors that are contributing to this. So I want you to take this time, and I want you to give yourself compassion. I want you to lean into yourself and go, that's okay, girl. We're going to get some motivation back. Is it going to be like when you're in your mid-30s and you're super motivated? Maybe, maybe not. I haven't tapped into that. I might have little brief moments of that, but I've just made peace. I'm just like, come on, motivation, come with me at whatever level we've got, and let's go do the things that we know that are going to create the results that I'm looking to create according to that vision. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who might be struggling to lose weight in perimenopause or even menopause without confusion and without overwhelm? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It blesses me to know this podcast is helping you. Time to grab my protein smoothie and head to the pickleball court. I'll meet you back here on Wednesday for another Honeycast episode. See ya.